Good morning. It's another lovely morning. It's Wednesday, the 20th of May, and it's the feast of St Alcuin of York. I've a little soft spot for Alcuin because in my time as a cathedral canon, his was one of the canonries I held. When people are a canon, they have a stall named after a certain saint, and one of the saints I had in my time as a cathedral canon was St Alcuin. And he's actually a very important figure, and he's from the old kingdom of Northumbria, which means he's relevant to people in the northeast and people in Yorkshire, because this was the region he came from, and he has connections in both counties, where I have a lot of connections as well. So I'm going to read a little bit about him. Alcuin was born of noble parentage about 735, probably in or near York. He was educated at York Cathedral School by Aelbert, a former pupil of Bede in connection to the northeast. Alcuin, a highly able pupil, soon attracted the special attention of Aelbert, who took the pupil on several visits to the continent. When in 767 Aelbert became Archbishop of York, Alcuin, who had been ordained deacon, succeeded him as master of the school and continued in this work for 15 years, attracting numerous students and enriching the already valuable library. In common with many effective teachers, it was Alcuin's gift to be able to inspire those he taught with his own enthusiasm for learning. Not surprisingly, the school attracted talented students from far and wide. When he was returning from a visit to Rome in 781, he met Charlemagne, then the king of the Franks, who became the Holy Roman Emperor. He persuaded Alcuin to relocate to his court in Aachen as master of the palace school and in effect his minister of education. Alcuin was responsible for the process of establishing a primary school in every town and village, because the clergy could be the teachers, ensuring higher standards of literacy and education among both the parish priests and ordinands, and he established scriptoria for the copying and preserving of ancient manuscripts, thus preserving the writings of many classical authors that might have been lost. He is also credited with inventing cursive script, joined-up writing, as an aid to speedier copying. To Alcuin belongs much of the credit for the revision of the organisation of the liturgy in Latin, the preservation of many of the ancient prayers, and the development of plain chant. He wrote 9 biblical commentaries and was responsible for a revision of the Latin Bible, the Vulgate. He was a foremost opponent of the adoptionist heresy, where Jesus started off as human but became God, and an advocate of the doctrine of the joint procession of the Holy Spirit from the Father and the Son, though the widespread acceptance of this doctrine by the Western Church really only has made the split with the East quicker. You can't always be right. In 796, when Alcuin was over 60 and anxious to retire from public life, Charlemagne appointed him the abbot of St Martin's at Tours, the famous monastery, because at some point he must have become a Benedictine. Here, in his declining years, he built a model monastic school, as he had previously done in York and at Aachen. He died in May 804. Alcuin, who even in retirement formed a new school, Alcuin who contributed to education, Alcuin who contributed to liturgy, who wrote biblical commentaries. He was we would call it a polymath, someone who made such a contribution to education, not only in this country, coming from the northeast, but to the whole of Europe. We're thinking a lot about education at the moment because of the schools being off and when they should go back. And so it might be a good time to pray, particularly for schools and for teachers, and the difficult decisions they have to make for the safety and learning of our pupils, the good operation of Google Classroom so that they can continue with their work, and above all for everyone who is working to deal with this pandemic situation. May God bless us today.